the requisition in 2024, we would have to increase, we'd have to add $370,169 in service S22 alone, which would be a 13.1% increase in service S222. And then the second part of this, in service S227, to do the projects and follow the plan that staff is recommending right now, we would have to increase our budget from $860,908 to $1,272,810, which would be an increase of $411,902, which is a 47.8% increase in electricity. Are my numbers correct?
Sorry.
Yeah, Director David wants you to add. Are you there?
Through the chair, through the chair, that's what I think Joe has presented in the draft budget, CBET.
Yes.
Those are the exact numbers almost.
Thank you.
But through the chair, just to Director David, I just need you to, just one point of clarification. So they're two different pieces. So the commission has approved the plan of I want to make sure that this is clear. Commission approved a plan of an additional 600,000 between S222 and S227 to fund either capital projects or reserves. That was last year. This year's 700, next year's 800, the next year's this year's 700, that's right. Next year's 900, then 1 million. The borrowing is part of that. Right, so it's not, for example, this year, 700,000 plus 12,900. The 700,000 plus includes that 12,900. In
So
2000.
you were saying that what we've approved for reserves last year, that addition, that the payment for the loan is coming out of that?
Correct.
Not something extra that we would be taxing?
Yeah, correct.
Do you get that, Director Davidoff? So what he's saying is that
So,
the payment is not an extra, the payment will be coming out of the reserve contributions that we already started approving.
So
I appreciate that. So, supplemental, Chair?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so what would the plan proposed at our last meeting? I did the math, and the requisition increase was supposed to be 9.5% in service S222 and 31.6% in S227. And now we've gone with the new plan that staff is proposing, and Craig and Yev and everyone's confirmed that the requisition will increase 47.8% in service S227, and I think it was 13.5%. Yeah, 13.1% in service S222. So the plan being presented by staff now
it doesn't impact
increases our requisitions to astronomical numbers in S227, whereas before the plan was at 9.5 and 31.6% in those two services. So the key thing is that I'll tell you right now, my constituents are going to string me up with anything that I'm coming to them with saying, oh yeah, because they're already bugging me about a 12% increase. And now they're saying you're going to increase the S227 by 47.8%.
Sorry, so through the chair, this is what, there's two separate conversations. But sorry, and so to Director Davidoff, I would suggest that we don't approve the recommendation until I get through the conversation on the operating side. This plan this plan itself does not impact taxation any differently than what it was before in 2024. So just wait, because you need the explanation. Just need the explanation. So if we could go to the next report, then I can explain that.
Yeah, I think what Joe is saying is that the capital side specifically has not actually changed. It's just how we're allocating that money has changed. The change is coming on the operating side. And so I think that's why he's wanting to go to the other report and then we'll come back. Because the capital side, it's just reallocating those reserves that we had already approved. So that side hasn't actually changed in the budget. It's the side that is the change, I think is what Joe's saying, wanting to go to the other report. Craig, you had your hand up?
Yeah, through the chair, there was a small change in the capital, as I said, about the rooftop units where it before it was 150,000. So we did move 75,000 to the pool side where that RTU is.
Right, but sorry, but just to be clear, that doesn't impact taxation because that's being fully funded from reserves.
So the taxation, that was my point, the taxation piece for the capital has not changed since our last budget. It looks like the change is on the operating side.
Correct.
So we're gonna jump to the operating side, and then after we've seen the whole picture, we'll have a conversation over the actual tax present, or the tax rate that is being proposed, and what we're gonna do there. So I'm gonna go over to Joe, and you can go on to the next report, and then, unless anyone has any other clarifying questions over the capital side, but I'm not seeing. There's two hands up. Is that anyone that still I didn't get to, or is that Craig and Andy?
Can we
good.
just get Craig to put up that report, the next report? Can you share that?
Yeah, okay, Craig.
Chair, what would you like me to share? I guess, Joe, what are we speaking to next?
Craig, the 2024 draft operational.
For which would you want to do S2?
Well, they're both in the same report, so we just want to be on page one. Just on page one.
Yeah.
Of that report, sorry, page one of that report, so I don't know what it is in the agenda.
Is that what you want to look at, Joe?
No, actually, my report piece. I can,
The one that has the, one more page.
yeah, there we go. Oh, sorry.
Nope, now we got too far.
You know what, Craig?
Not there, Joe.
You got the wrong one. You got the wrong agenda.
I got the wrong agenda, my apologies.
That's okay. Is there a way to put it up on our end by any chance? Or is it just Craig?
My computer's not connected.
Okay.
Agenda, oh, sorry. Here we go. Let's do this.
Sorry, Craig.
No worries. I will find the first page. There it is. I found it.
All right.
Yeah,
So-
that's it.
So based upon, this first page is based upon two things. The way that we project 2023 to end, right? So what our actuals are gonna be in 2023. And right now, that we are following the capital plan that was presented in the report before. So this is where, yes, in S, so there's two big bullets. The first one is S222, which, S22, what that means is the arena, recreation, regional parks are all in that service. And then S227 is the aquatic and fitness center. So S222 right now does have, like using that plan, putting it into a financial plan for 2024 with where we believe 2023 is gonna end up, would be a lift of 13.14%. So, but there's some important pieces in here. So $100,000 of that lift is that increase in funding for capital projects. So that's a 16.667% increase of the amount from last year, or a 3.55% on the entire requisition. So not the budget, just to be clear, it's not an increase on the budget, I'm comparing that to the requisition. But a big piece here is that there's a $108,290 decrease in the operational surplus from last year. So that contributes, so the operational surplus, remember, so that last year funded part of operations, okay? So that's not there. So it's a decrease. There still is a little bit of a surplus coming forward in S222, but it's less. So that would contribute that's a 55.59% decrease from that surplus of last year, and that would contribute a 3.84% increase in taxation. So then there's some other areas that are impacting the budget this year. A $39,744 decrease in projected revenue for the service. And most of that is the fact that right now we're projecting that we're not operating the Pioneer. But it's also from the fact that we're actually renting rooms like this and the big room less. So that, based upon what we've seen, those don't seem to be as attractive as much as they have in the past for rentals. So that part is a $39,744, which is about a 10.5% decrease in revenue, or an increase of 1.41% on taxation. And just to know, so just through to Andy, there are very big decision points for commission here, and that's why I tried to present it this way. The one piece is that we're funding more consulting this year. So that consultation is directly in line with the engagement. They got 20, a little more than half now. So that $52,000 increase to provide that engagement is a 1.85% increase on taxation. There's another consulting project this year, and that is through the Canadian, it's a grant that we received through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and it's to develop a path to tie the asset management plan into our requirements to hit net zero. So that is an important piece. And so this is just our portion of a $250,000 project. Correct, Craig? Yep, he's nodding.
Yeah.
There is a $93,611 increase in employee expenses. That's an 8.94% increase, or 3.32% increase on the requisition. Okay? So that's made up of salaries and benefits. And we are entering into negotiations this year with our people. So in S227, and Andy, this, just so you know, this made me gulp as well as I was watching Liverpool's game on Sunday morning. So the taxation here goes up $411,902. And that is the 47.85% impact on requisition. 218,000 of that is the decrease in operational surplus. So, and the reason it says, just so you know, 100% would mean that there was we're actually right now running a small deficit in S227. And the detailed financial analysis, when I get to that part, will explain why that is so. So that is 103, so essentially there's no surplus and we're running a small deficit. That would equate to 25.38% increase in requisition. But that is already a part of your operation, right? That is a part of your operation, right? There is a $16,254 decrease in projected revenue. So that's about 1.89%. And I'll say S227 would be an area where, based upon the performance in Creston and Nelson, we would expect actually revenue to increase. We're not seeing that. In particular, the reason that we feel, or at least I'm going to say I feel, but I believe there's a little bit of concurrence here, is that the fitness center here doesn't drive our user fees. Creston and Nelson, the fitness center is driving the recovery of fees in those two services. Nelson is like flying ahead right now, and it's moving ahead even, it's January over first 15 days of January over January is already trending well ahead of 2023. And 2023 was well ahead of 2020 for obvious reasons, because 2022, because we still had some restrictions at that point. There's a $23,682 increase in general administration, information and community services fee. So in S227, that was up in S222 as well. And they impact taxation, but I wanna point out what's also a reason why this is happening here, and this is the complexity of regional district budgets. So we remember that we finished reorganization in 2023, 2022. 2023 was the first year where everyone's salaries were into different services. So what's actually happened in all of the big service budgets, so whether it be a big park budget or a big service budget, general admin fee has increased more in the community in the allocation service, because we've pulled salaries out of the operating services. So S222, S227, the Nelson service and the Castlegar service. So there's more payroll transactions and all of those things that actually drive the allocation of general admin. So they're higher in the community services fee. If you were to look at general admin just straight across between 2023 and 2020, they're pretty equal. IT has gone down, community services fee has gone up. But that's actually because the community services fee is carrying a much bigger portion of general admin now.
I see a hand, is that a clarifying question, or is this?
Chair,
taking into-
that's Director Davidoff.
Director James, do you have a clarifying question? I just want to make sure Joe gets through his whole presentation before we get into the tax piece, but do you need some clarity on something?
I posted in chat that I will ask my questions and make my comments when Joe finishes his presentation.
I don't see chat, so sorry. But thanks.
So I know that, that piece can be, it can be very, very challenging sometimes to understand. And in this service in particular, you'll notice that the impact from our projected budget for employee expenses is higher than S222. In this case here, there's really two initiatives that are going on. Number one is increased training, increased cost of training, of trying to get people to become, whether it be fitness instructors or lifeguards. So that piece is still with us. The other piece is that we've increased our staffing level. This may sound counterintuitive, but increased our staffing level in the fitness center. Part of that is to try and make the fitness center a more pleasant place to be, so that we can help hopefully start changing that momentum in the fitness center. So those are two big pieces, plus of course the COLA increase for cost of living increase for employees. So in this case, that's a 9.77% increase on salaries there. But it's at that impact. This is one of those weird places where you can see how much salaries make up in a budget. It actually impacts taxation more. So, but there is a way that we're finishing our year in 2023 that I need to bring to the attention of Commission. there could be a surplus coming forward. So, when we created the plan for funding capital and reserves, it was 600,000 plus reserves would equal any capital project that we have. So we have spent more in capital than we've drawn from reserve. Because of that surplus that we have in the service, which right now, depending upon which service we're looking at, is because we still weren't meeting the operational levels that we were aspiring to. So we didn't draw, our attempt was to draw enough capital to keep both services from going into deficit. Okay? So in S222, we have a small $80,000, I think it's about $80,000 right now surplus. 30,000 of that, though, we knew we needed to keep because that was money that we received for a capital project we haven't started, which was Glade. So we knew we needed to bring that forward. But we could, if we were to do what we said we would do with capital, not use operational funding for it, it would mean that we would draw more money from reserves in both services. So in S222, that would look like about $145,533. In S227, that would be about $138,704. So what that would mean is that we would bring forward approximately between the two services, $284,257 in surplus. But that would change things. Because, for example, in S222 in particular, that would draw our reserves down quite a bit, and we would end up having to borrow more.
Okay, clarifying question, just so I understand what you're saying. So you're saying if we used our reserves that we intend for capital projects to offset our operating budget,
No,
that would bring that down, or
no,
what are you
through
saying?
the chair, it would be to offset the capital costs. So so what we did is we did not draw out as much reserves. If we had hit all of our operating numbers and we had zero left in operation, we would have had to have done these things, these draws from reserve.
Okay.
Right? So I understand it is not subsidizing operations.
Okay.
It is actually funding the capital that we planned in 2023. But it would change the capital plan, how we would fund it going forward.
Okay, are we
Yeah,
continuing on, or do we think?
I think that there's some other a little bit of detail, but I don't know that we need to get into that piece. I think
If anyone has questions
this is
on it.
the fundamental strategic piece right here.
Okay, Andy, we'll go to you first, and if anyone else wants to be on the list, can you put your hand up and I'll just watch right now so that I make sure I catch you? Okay, if it changes, I'll keep my eye open. Go for it, Andy.
Thank you, Chair. So basically, this is very depressing for me. I'm sure it's depressing for others. It's very similar to Sunday with the mistakes world-class players like Allison and Van Dijk made, in that game. But the bottom line is that I just had a meeting with our fire services folks and with Yev, and we talked about how much our fire service budgets would have to increase in our electoral areas if we didn't have and didn't use Community Works millions of dollars of Community Works funds, growing community funds, CBT grants to offset our capital and operational expenses in our fire service. And I know between Henny and myself, we've probably spent $2 million of community works funds on capital, or $1.5 million at least, on community works funds on our capital infrastructure projects for our fire services, upgrading our fire halls. So the key thing is that if there was ever a time for us to be using growing community funds, or which we already did, CBT grants, which we don't have, the only source of money that we have right now is community works funds. That's why I was proposing to leave our plan like we had it before, and then basically my motion that I've circulated is that between the three of us, the partners, utilize $375,000 of community works funds in the proportions that that are in the enabling bylaws, and that would help reduce the taxation impact on our ratepayers and reduce our borrowing. So the bottom line is that worked in the old plan, but now I see that we are facing just monstrous increases that I had never ever anticipated in these services. And a 47.8 in one service is like I've never seen that before in our biggest expense electoral areas. I think I just can't process this. And I need staff to go back to the drawing board and tweak and call another meeting of us, because there's no way that I'm going to be voting to recommend this. And I even was contemplating that. Can you imagine us going out to our area I meetings in our reimagining plan, saying, okay, not only can we not afford to do what I'm proposing here to support $25,000 worth of community halls and venues, we can't do that because we can't afford it. Not only that, but we're coming to you with a 47.8 increase in requisition in S222 and 13.1% increase in S222. We're not going to be received very well. And it's going to happen at the same time.
Andy, I have not, I don't know if anyone else has, but I haven't received your amendment, so you have it, good, as long as
Oh, yeah,
Tricia has
send it to everybody.
And-
I have it.
Okay, great, it's probably just my internet's not
Well,
working,
you might have to go all the way down from,
I'll figure it out.
yeah.
Henny, is the second hand yours, or did I miss someone else in there too? I do see yours, Henny.
Let Henny go first and then I'll go.
Okay,
Henny, you go
have it.
first.
Okay, go for it, Henny.
Okay, yeah, you know what, and I kind of feel like I need more time on this too, but Andy, I have to say that sending a proposal 12 minutes into a meeting, I'm trying to follow the meeting. I don't have time to focus or consider what you've put to us. So I struggle with things coming in like that, and I kind of feel a bit blindsided about that, and I just have to say that. I too am struggling with the whole thing, and I think part of it is that, kind of like Sue, I'm not feeling well. I don't have pneumonia. It's a different problem entirely. But I'm feeling like I need a bit more time and a bit more understanding. And I really feel, and I get that this is a me problem, not a you guys problem, but I feel that the distance in my mind, I thought this meeting was next week and I was going to be back for it. I'm really struggling with all of it. I'm just going to say that.
Yep. So, Chair, can I respond to Henny's comment about what I sent in and when, please?
I will come back to it. I just want to go through our list and make sure we're respectful that everyone gets a chance.
Thank you.
Sue, I think we got you next.
Is it my turn? I couldn't hear you, Maria.
Yes, go for it, Sue.
Okay, yeah, you kind of break up. Maybe it's my head, I don't know. So at the end of the day, capital works needs to be done on our assets, and for so many years, the work has been delayed or deferred. And so now that has caught up to us. And so choices have to be made, how we go ahead and funded this. And I think I think we should actually probably adjourn our meeting here in a couple of minutes and reschedule another meeting in a week or two when everybody is feeling better, able to come to a meeting in person to discuss this. And maybe Joe, if we can ask you to kind of synthesize your presentation about where the money would be going, and because I'm what I heard was 280,000 plus in surplus. You're suggesting it could offset the capital, but that's going against the plan that we set last year. But
So sorry,
is
so
that what
through the
I
chair,
heard?
the 200, in 2023, drawing that much money out of reserves towards the capital projects that we did would be perfectly within the plan that we did last year. What was just, there's a practice where if we have the funding in a service and we're not, we don't need to go there because we actually, the funding is there, we don't do it. But in this case, it actually has dramatic impacts on 2024, but it's perfectly within the plan. So if what you would like is Craig, Tricia, and I to present a scenario with that piece, I would, that's the kind of direction that I would like, because then I can narrow down the options, because there's lots of them in.
I see
Okay,
your
and
hand,
then
Penny.
I suggest
Oh,
just
sorry.
one sec, Maria. So then I suggest that maybe if staff can go away and ask them in to set up a meeting, maybe next week or the week after, just do a doodle poll, and we'll reconvene to talk about the budget, and hopefully I'm in better shape, actually, if that's okay.
I'm just gonna jump in because we're at board and everything next week anyway, so I think 2 weeks forward would be the better choice. And what I would like, I get that whatever we're gonna do is gonna be legal, because obviously it has to be. But what I'd like to know is sort of, okay, if we do this, what's the impact? What's that going to cost? I think if we can do it within 5 years and not pay interest for 10 years, that makes sense to me. That kind of thing. I want to make the best possible decision. And I agree with what Sue said, that we set a course of action last year. And I'm not suggesting that we deviate from that course of action. I just need to understand well enough so that I feel like I'm making the best possible decision I can on behalf of the people I represent.
Thanks, honey. Andy, I'll give you time to respond, and then we'll go to staff and see what their thoughts are on timing.
Yeah, so just in response to Henny's question, like I spent hours and hours and hours analyzing all these documents, but we only got stuff a day and a half ago. And I've been really busy, and I've been sick for a month as well. I've been really busy this week dealing with all kinds of HR issues and everything else. I have a full-time job, but I took the time, worked really late, and came up with a motion based on the documents that we just received, Henny, not weeks ago, but a day and a half ago. And that's why it's my only chance to submit something. And even then, I had to change that here on the fly. But I'm trying to do something that we're taxed to the max already. And now we are facing these unbelievable potential tax increase, and they're untenable. And so that's all I'm trying to do. And I also tried to do something to help us with our reimagining recreation so that when we go to the 5 meetings in area I, Henny was here, Ed, when we go to the 5 meetings in area I, that we're not gonna be coming to them at the same time, oh, here we go, you're gonna be facing these enormous increases. And then, by the way, what do you think we should be doing? I know exactly what the answer is gonna be. Getting the heck out of the services. That's what the answer is gonna be. That's the reimagining that I know we're gonna hear. I got nothing to work with here.
And yeah, I think we hear your point, and I think we're gonna try and pick this up at a later date when we have some specific options in those. Henny, do you have something?
Yeah, and
that will add?
okay, I don't want to go down the drain of a debate on this thing, but I will,
Well, you started it, Henny.
well, okay,
For now-
Andy, I started it then, whatever. What I am saying is that in order for me to consider what you've put forward, I need time. And that's why I think hitting a pause on this for 2 weeks makes sense.
Great, thanks, Henny. I just wanna make it clear that we're not gonna crosstalk or be disrespectful. So I hear that both parties are feeling like they are doing their best. And I agree, Andy, it's hard to digest material when you get it at that short of notice, and it's a lot of deep material. And I also understand, Henny, it's very hard to make a decision on the fly. I'm the same. You need time to process. So I know we have just a couple minutes. I just wanna give some context to if we're gonna go away and come back, what I would like to see if we're coming back, okay, in there. And it sounds like that's the consensus, is we want to come back with some debate. So from my perspective, coming back would be, what I see in this budget is that 25% of the 227 is because we made decisions to use surplus. I've been saying that as a concern of mine since I got onto the rec commission, is that using surplus to fund operational costs, not just one-time costs, will catch up to you. And so I do not want to see that change. I don't want, even if we have surplus somewhere, I do not want that to offset what we are doing, otherwise we're just postponing catching up. The second piece that I would say is, we have so much catch up to do, even the capital side of this building, and so I don't wanna postpone that. I'd rather rip off the Band-Aid and make sure that we're just getting ourselves caught up the best we can to where we need to be going. And so that's what I would be seeing. I'm okay with other options coming in front of us, as long as it doesn't put us behind with where we need to be, because we have spent a couple decades not keeping up with what we need, and I don't want to continue that. Otherwise, we end up where we're right now with massive tax increases, and that's part of the reason why we're seeing those tax increases right across a lot of different spaces, is because that upkeep in different services, not just rec services, but other services, was not kept on par with what the need was. So whatever that looks like, I am okay with that. I have a really quick question. Do you have in here with your increase to employee expenses, you said we're going into negotiations this year, is that included then in the differential you propose might be with your new contracts?
We've included
A buffer?
a buffer.
Okay. You don't have to say any more than that, I just wanted to make sure that was included in there. Okay, so is that okay with staff? We leave, you're gonna book another meeting. Does that throw off any of the other budget meetings for the RDCK?
Once we do the doodle, we will and we'll have to limit the doodle poll to the dates a week, because we're doing a road shows as well.
Yeah.
Can I just because we do have public here, you wanna do public time.
Yeah.
But I'd like to is one of the options the detailed analysis in section 3 of their second report?
I think we're open to all options, and then we can have them discussed at that time.
And you would like me to include one of the options, one of Andy's, Director David Off's recommendation piece?
I can clearly state that our community works funds, which we call something different.
Yeah.
We've already done our taxes, so everything is allocated. I'm not saying we don't necessarily have something that we've set aside for recreation for the future, but we can't speak for council on what that money would look like. Just so that everyone's aware, I can throw that back to our staff, and but we don't, I just wanna be clear, our tax rates, everything for last year, and all of that has already been accounted for. Just because I know that's part of Andy's motion, and I think I've said it for the last couple of years, that those requests need to come much earlier than February if you're wanting something from the city side, just because we do all of this way earlier. So if you're not telling us way earlier, we can't.
So Chair,
Yeah, go for it, Director David, yeah.
yeah, and this is, I wanted to address that as well, because it's impossible for us to bring stuff to the city on your timelines, because we don't do our budgets till March. And we don't even know what our budget's gonna look like. Look what happened here in the space of 1 month, where we have gone from 31% to 47% in one service. So we cannot bring anything to the city we didn't even know any of this till a day and a half ago. So the problem is that I would respectfully suggest that I have allocated all of Area I community funds, all of them. But the key thing is I unallocate. Earmarking, allocating is different from actually committing. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Thanks, Andy, and that does give us time, a few weeks for Henny to look at hers and us to look at ours and come prepared for what options are. Okay, so we're going to postpone, I didn't read any recommendations, so I don't need to. Oh, sorry, Henny, yes, go right ahead.
I just, so if I have questions, do I go to you, Joe?
Yes, you can come to me. Yeah, if it's about this service, yes.
Yeah, that's all it'll be about.
Okay, no problem. I just want to make sure.
Any life questions, Joe doesn't
No,
have, but you know
no.
what it's about.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna
Because
ask you
or
about.
else I would say that, because Yev is there as well.
Okay, great, okay, so I don't need to do anything with this, I just have to postpone it until our future meeting, is that what we're doing, a motion to postpone 6.1 until a future meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, so someone wanna make a motion to postpone 6.1 to a future meeting where we'll discuss? Great, and
I
seconder?
make that motion.
Good. All those in favor? And I was amiss, Brian had something he wanted to say and I had to listen and I just kept on going. Go for it, Brian.
Okay, my only comment would be, and I say this as not having been on the commission for more than a year. If anyone's surprised by the ask in this, they weren't paying attention the last 15 years, unfortunately. And when the public sees it, it's gonna give them a lot of questions. And somebody made the comment about managing assets. They haven't been managed well. And it's easy to point the finger at past commissions. I'm just saying we have a plan in place to move forward. And we can't keep sliding backwards. We have to move forward.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, we are gonna go to public time and we have a few minutes. So we have no one online and, we do have one person online. So how do we deal with online with our system? Just if they would like to ask a question, put their hand up. Is there a hand button or what do you do?
Yeah, just ask, exactly, just ask.
DR, if you have any questions, now would be the time to unmute and ask them. Okay, I'm not seeing any there. And hello, if you have any questions for us, now is your time.
I do not have any questions.
Okay.
Well, that's actually a requirement of coming.
Honestly, I feel like I just jumped into the deep end without my life preserver, so
Welcome to politics.
I'm going to listen and I'm gonna absorb and there may be something there.
If you look through any information, feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we are more than happy to answer.
I will, thank you.
Great.
And thank you for coming as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised that there is not more.
Yeah.
After last night, I thought there would
We
be a
rarely,
lot more.
we rarely get anyone coming to our recognition meetings.
Really?
We're just finishing the commission.
Which, anyways, let me finish the general. Okay, next meeting, we are unsure, we have a March 5th for sure at 4 p.m. and there may be another meeting scheduled, and we'll leave it open-ended. And there's nothing else, right? So I call for adjournment of this part of the meeting.
So moved.
Seconder, all in favor? Okay, we'll give you guys online a minute to jump into the other webinar.